Be prepared for it to happen this year. Have enough gold and silver wherever you need it to survive the immediate aftermath of a dollar collapse. It could happen any time. It could definitely happen this year. I focus on the monetary philosophical aspect of these markets. I mean, I understand investment demand, I understand industrial demand, but monetary demand is a completely different thing, which we haven't seen yet. I bifurcate between investment demand and monetary demand because investment demand is what silver stackers do. It's like we stack silver. Why? Because we know that something big is going to happen. And whether we realize it or not, what that big thing is that an explosion of actual monetary demand. And what is monetary demand versus investment demand? Investment demand is when you stack silver in anticipation of monetary demand because you expect the monetary system to break down. And monetary demand is different from industrial demand because everyone demands money. Everyone needs money for something. Otherwise, there is no division of labor. So that's a much more fundamental thing. When we look at the futures markets of silver priced, whether it's on the LBMA or the COMEX or whatever the contract is, what's the price of what we're looking at? We're looking at the price of industrial demand and some investment demand, but we're not looking at the price of monetary demand because monetary demand is when everybody wants it to exchange against other goods. And when that happens, that's when gold to silver falls to like 15 to 1, as it does in every monetary panic in history. That's what always happens. Why? Because most people can't afford gold, so they go to silver, which is already starting to happen, but it has a lot more to fall. It fell to 15 to 1 in 1918. It fell to 15 to 1 in 1980. It's going to fall to 15 to 1 again, and that's when we are in a full-blown monetary crisis.
Rafi Farber stated that prices are rising everywhere, and it's not due to a shortage of goods, it's a money problem. He emphasized that the real issue lies in the fact that basic necessities are becoming more expensive much faster than anything else. According to him, focusing on broad inflation numbers is pointless because, in any hyperinflationary scenario, it's the essentials that skyrocket, while luxury items either stay flat or increase at a much slower pace. Farber pointed out that we're already witnessing the development of a financial crisis. As the tide comes in, it's becoming evident who's vulnerable, such as UK pension plans or crypto exchanges like FTX. He believes these situations will start unfolding more frequently, and eventually, central banks will be forced to reverse their policies. When that happens in an inflationary environment, whether it's 8%, 7%, 6%, or 5%, people will flock to precious metals, as they always do. Farber doesn't know exactly when the central banks will break and start printing again, but he is confident they will due to immense pressure. When that time comes, he expects silver to be drained from all centralized stockpiles, whether it's COMEX, LBMA, or any silver fund holding unallocated silver, be it in the Perth Mint, Switzerland, or elsewhere. He believes all these stockpiles will be attacked simultaneously, as they are essentially the same, just in different locations. According to Farber, once these reserves are depleted, silver stackers will come out on top because they are holding and not selling.
Well, we saw it once in July of 2020 when I think the number of deliveries was higher than the amount of registered silver available. And so I think JP Morgan rushed, it was like 45 million ounces from its eligible pile into the registered. I don't know exactly why they did that because I think deliveries going into the COMEX, not out at that time, but it was at least on net. So it was confusing what was happening, but at least we see the mechanism of what would happen if registered supplies go to zero. You'd see some bank or other with a whole bunch of eligible supplies put them into registered category because it's happened before. But again, the rule changes in the COMEX in 1980. They did them because they could. The situation there was we were already basically back on a gold and silver standard in 1980, at least in terms of the Fed's balance sheet, because the valuation of gold at the time was enough to back all of the Fed's liabilities on its balance sheet by over 100%. That is the definition of a gold standard. And the gold-silver ratio is about 15 to 1, which is the general gold-silver standard that we've had for hundreds of years before that. So 1980 brought us back on a gold and silver standard. So since we were already there, the COMEX had the ability to mess around with the rules. But if they do that in this environment where the Fed has absolutely no ability to raise interest rates anywhere near 20%, forget it, it's impossible. If they change the rules in this environment, then all the demand would just flood into the physical markets and everyone would just ignore the COMEX and who cares what they say? Doesn't matter. They won't have the power because instead of dollars trading for paper silver on a futures exchange, you'd just have that futures exchange ignored completely, and physical silver would be exchanged for goods on some kind of decentralized panic, segmented market where people would be trading physical coins or some kind of reliable backing of a certificate for them for actual goods and services, which would be the end game that we're all looking at, where gold and silver become money again, literally. We've never seen in the history of the world a currency backed by a basket of commodities. That's it's a nice, people try to spin these intellectual theories on money that we've never seen before and I don't think are possible. Look, gold and silver are money. Baskets of commodities are not money. Every time that some country comes up with some kind of scheme to use, whether it's real estate or tobacco or whatever, as money, it doesn't last long. Gold and silver are money, and that's it. And as for the formation of BRICS into some kind of a new currency, it would have to be gold and silver backed in order to supplant the dollar, which is what they're going to have to do. But if they do that, they're going to have to become fiscally responsible. Russia has the ability to do that. Brazil and India, I don't see any fiscal responsibility in those countries so much. Maybe they can change. I don't see a changing of the guard by BRICS countries uniting and becoming responsible and changing the world. I see the market going one way and then BRICS following the market by inertia and force and then taking credit for it.
Rafi Farber stated that the public will lead the market, the public in the streets trying to buy food, no matter which city they're in across the world. Right now, they're backed by the dollar, but when that fails, they'll turn to gold and silver. Then, BRICS nations will likely say, okay, we're going to gold and silver because that's where the market's heading, and they won't have any other choice. Farber believes they won't create a market themselves. Instead, they'll follow the public's lead and then claim credit for it. When it comes to timing, Farber advises always being prepared for it to happen this year. He emphasizes the importance of having enough gold and silver on hand, wherever you need it, to survive the immediate aftermath of a dollar collapse. It could happen at any time, and while it could definitely happen this year, nothing is certain. He points out that there have been people in the industry for 30 or 40 years who still haven't seen the collapse they've been expecting. However, Farber asserts that all inflationary systems are exponential. They only move in one direction, continually rising until they eventually go vertical. He believes we are currently on that vertical part of the curve. While it's theoretically possible for them to stop and let the system collapse, leading to their banker friends going bankrupt, Farber argues that they're too greedy and foolish to allow that. When you're dealing with evil, he says, it tends to continue until it self-destructs. That's the outcome he sees unfolding here. At the moment, Farber notes that the Fed is attempting to step off the exponential curve by halting money printing, and the money supply is decreasing. But he warns that this will only last until it can't anymore. Historically, whenever they've tried this, they've always had to reverse course. He doesn't believe this time will be any different. Everything that has happened before is bound to happen again, only on a much larger scale. We're just waiting for that turning point, and while the exact timing is uncertain, Farber is confident it will happen soon.